Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
A wonderful afternoon today, but I want to, on behalf of my dad, Jay, and myself, Caroline, and my husband Wayne, and our children, thank you all for coming today. And for those of you who are watching live stream, thank you for joining us. I wish that my mom were here. It is such a beautiful day, and I wish that she could just see all of your faces in this amazing day, because she would be so excited and this would be so fun, and at the same time she would be completely uncomfortable with all this attention and find a way to turn the conversation to focus on all of you and to ask how you're doing. And I love that about her. Even though we can't take worldly treasure with us when we cross from this life to the next, love endures all things. So I imagine that there is some version of live streaming that I don't know about, so Mom is getting to hear and see all the best of today with us, and she is receiving our love with joy. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." He also taught us that a joyful heart is good medicine. And despite the sorrows of 2020, and there have been many, goodness and mercy has been before us and behind us every step of the way. Today we are here to celebrate the goodness, a great goodness, that is my mom, Pat Tressler, and we are excited to share stories and memories and laughter and celebrate that life. And since there is no face that we would rather see right now, let's enjoy some pictures and some of Mom's favorite songs to get us started today. I imagine she may be singing along. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, I say it's alright. It feels like since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It's alright. The sun shining through my face. It seems like since it's been here. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright. It's alright. Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. It's alright. It's alright.
West Virginia, the Ridge Mountain, Shenandoah River. Life is older, older than the tree, younger than the mountain, growing like the breeze. Country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country road, woman, together round her, miles away, straight to blue water. Darkness painted on the sky, just a taste of the shine. Teardrops in my eyes, country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country road, I hear her voice in the morning how she calls me. Radio reminds me of my home on way. Driving down the road, I feel that I should have been home yesterday. Yesterday, country road, take me home to the place. That works. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country road, take me home to the place I belong. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Country road, take me home. And country road, take me home. And country road.
Who picked that song to go right before I'm supposed to talk? Ooh, that song gets me every time. I am up here today with my two siblings, Jackson and Natalie, and we just wanted to share a couple memories and things that are sweet to us in remembering our grandma. So, I should not have picked to write a letter. I want this to be a celebration, and hopefully it touches you guys, hearing some of the things that were special to me. So I wrote this letter. John Denver. Does it make anyone else special? Okay. So, dear Grandma, when I think of you, it's hard to share one thing or one moment that stands out. I think of your love for music, travel, and reading. I think of your beautiful smile, your hair, and your laugh. I think of your love for the city and how you share that with me, and how you help me to discover the same love in my heart. I think of the way you savored your morning coffee, featuring bathrobes and bedhead after one of our sleepovers. Sorry. I think of the farmer's market and Suzette's creperie. I think of the magic you brought to Christmas Eve and your firm belief that no one could ever have more fun than us. I think of tenacity and strength. Thank you. I think of riding the train, holding your hand, and the kind of hugs only a grandma can give. When I think of you, I think of all the good things. Today we celebrate you and each memory we shared with you. Thank you for making these memories with me and for loving us so well. You've been first class in every way. Love your Libby Lou.
My name is Jackson. I'm the grandson amidst the family, and I can emulate a lot of the things that Olivia just said there, and just repeat that and just praise towards grandma. Wasn't expecting that. Yeah, when I was reflecting on kind of the things that I would share, just as I think back about grandma and all the fun that we had, all the laughs and smiles. One phrase that stood out to me is one that Olivia mentioned, and it's that grandma would always say, "Who has more fun than us?" Right? And that always came following things that you would think are more exciting and things that are seemingly less exciting. We somehow found ways to just laugh and have a good time. I actually recall a time that when we were out in Arizona, my wife and I, right over there, we were coming back from just a night out. We had a great time. I think we were up at a restaurant that was on top of Phoenix. You could look out and see everything. And when we got back, we struck a conversation about headlights. And as crazy as that might sound and how boring that might sound, it was a conversation that was full of laughter, and laughter even to the point of tears. And so I won't bore you with the details. All you really need to know is that even some of the smaller conversations that we had, we seemingly just always had a good time. And but even after I was recalling even those funny moments in life and those experiences that I had with grandma and grandpa, those moments that we shared, there was something that went beyond the memories outside of the activities and the quote-unquote good times, and that was the relationship that grandma and grandpa sought to have with us grandkids. There was a relationship that was there, and so I think that's largely the reason why we were able to laugh and have such a good time, even in conversation, which even from a young age, hanging out with grandma and grandpa wasn't just a means of entertainment. It was conversation, it was intentionality, and it was instruction. There was always something that was encouraging in nature in those conversations that came through in an effort to know us as grandkids and to cheer us on in whatever we were doing. So after you mix up all of the love and encouragement that we experienced from our grandparents and from grandma, and then you threw in fun activities, I can say we had more fun than us.
Thank you all for being here, and I just have to say, what a wonderful job my two siblings just did. There is nothing they said that I don't agree with. My grandmother, your wife, sister, friend, and mother took this life and squeezed every ounce of good out of it as she could. If I had to pick a word to describe my grandmother, it would be intentional. The word intentional means to have a plan and a purpose. Her purpose for each time that we were together was to show us the good in everyday life. She loved life and the many things that the world has to offer. She took time to plan and execute everything that we did to make them both memorable and special. It is because of her that I'm not afraid to try new things and to travel. It is actually both my grandparents, my grandma and my grandpa, who bought me my passport and inspired my love to go. She stressed the importance that there was more in this world than meets the eye. I wouldn't be honoring her if I didn't mention the little quirks that made her known and loved by everyone. I think of the sound effects she made when opening a jar. The scream she would let out if someone turned the corner unexpectedly. Her laugh that was infectious. And the hello that echoed
through the house every time we entered. She made me feel seen and never made me doubt the love that she had for me and my family. So today, I don't have my glass, but you guys raise your glass. Let's raise our glass to the wonderful Pat for the way she enjoyed this life, and let's never stop living it to the fullest.
Here,
here. Thank you.
It's so much fun to hear grandkids talk because I have my own, so I know it's just so endearing. But Marcy and I are here today to kind of represent. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Trust me, you can hear me. It's so funny. Who's your neighbor? Jim yesterday was saying, yeah, I think I used to hear you girls when you came and played Bridget. Yeah. Larry said to me, can't you say a few words? You probably would recognize your voice over everybody else's. But Marcy and I are here today to represent a group of gals that have been together for over 46 years. We feel blessed by that friendship. Pat never hesitated to say how much we all meant to her. She enjoyed the silliness of friends with a laugh, as already mentioned, and only encouraged more silliness. Pat always said Jay was waiting for her after bridge to hear all the stories that were told. I don't know that Jay was ever as entertained by them as we were. Over the years, our conversations morphed from things about our kids to things about our grandkids, from the latest fad diets to our gratitude for spandex. And then the last few years, when we shared our visions and concerns about life without loved ones. But through everything, Pat was reminding us, and you'll probably hear this other times today, her famous quote that life is messy, but it was always with so much optimism. But one topic that was interwoven into every year of our friendship was our gratitude for loving, kind, and non-judgmental friends. As Michelle Obama so beautifully said, friendships between women, as women will tell you, are built of 1,000 kindnesses, swapped back and forth again. On a purely personal note, I'd like to share a little bit about Pat and me. While Pat and I were not comedians like Seinfeld in a car, we were, though, two girls who grew closer riding in a car. My earliest memories of Pat were many trips to Batavia to play bridge at BJ. Pat always gave me a heads up, even in January, that I should wear my warmest winter coat because windows would always end up open, as Pat's hot flashes did not respect others in the car. She would be like, windows going down. And you could be in the back seat. Car trips always gave Pat and me a quiet chance to talk books and movies. Our animated larger group didn't always respect the Robert's Rules of Order, so this was a time for real conversation. We compared how many nominated films we'd seen that year, and we were always pretty close. Our long trips to Lynn's house in Lake Geneva, it's here too, right there, gave us time to talk about kids, friendship. I was teaching, Pat was always interested. We talked about kindness, and yes, even husbands. Always good on that front, Jay. Always. There was many a trip that 90 minutes was not nearly enough time to fix all the issues that made life messy. On one of our trips to Lynn's, Pat was driving the getaway car when we thought we had walked into the wrong house and found an elderly man on a toilet. In the excitement of Pat telling us to get back in the car, we see Lynn coming toward us, and we learned that the elderly man was Doug's dad. We could bring up this story anytime and start laughing all over again. In the privacy of a car, Pat and I would share similar medical struggles. Pat was always the great sympathizer. Even at her most difficult moments, she always modeled such courage and, more impressively, optimism. Pat always knew what to say to me because of the difficult medical journey she had been on. It was just one of the messes that she handled with grace. I'll always cherish two gals in a car. I'd like to close with a reading that I received at the funeral of another close friend, and it's titled, Remember Me. To the living, I am gone. To the sorrowful, I will never return. To the angry, I was cheated. But to the happy, I'm at peace. And to the faithful, I have never left. I cannot be seen, but I can be heard. So as you stand upon a shore, gazing at a beautiful sea, remember me. As you look upon a flower and admire its simplicity, remember me. Remember your heart, your thoughts, your memories of the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we laughed, for if you always think of me, I will never be gone.
That's probably on the live stream when I You have to end with something really sentimental. Wow. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that 46-year part. I actually met Pat 48 years ago, nearly half a century. But I remember it well. Jim and I had gone to a JC pizza party, and across the room, I see this young mom come in. Her hair is pulled back tight in pigtails with big red fuzzy yarn bows on them. Keep in mind, we're like 28, 30. And I believe she was pregnant, probably with Pat, 1972 maybe. Who pulls that off? Our beautiful Pat, that's who. But when I think of Pat, I think a woman of quiet strength and grace. Her parents named her Patience, but they just as aptly could have named her Grace, because that's just how she conducted herself. I remember even in our early days of playing tennis, before Pat hit the circuit, I don't one time ever remember Pat flailing for a ball or lunging to save the point. She just, even on the court, was full of grace and composure. She left the flailing to the rest of us. By the way, all the while beating the pants off us. I want to share this short quote with you. It was written about Helen Keller, not by her, but about her. And it reminds me so much of our back. This was a lot easier in front of my bathroom mirror. But here's the book. The strongest women are often the ones who have had to endure the greatest obstacles. Pat had many obstacles. But it seems even in those toughest of times, or maybe particularly then, is when her grace and strength managed to rise to the top. Nearly 35 years ago, when Pat was first diagnosed with breast cancer, it was our first friend with a cancer diagnosis, and it was awful. I remember thinking, I need to go over there. I need to go talk to Pat. But how am I going to do this? I'm such an emotional wimp. I don't want to make her feel worse than she does. But, so what happens? I go over. Pat welcomes me in the front door with her beautiful smile, which I think she has passed on to her beautiful grandchildren. So we sat and we talked and we laughed. We cried. And in the end, she makes me feel better, which I know she has done over the years to countless others. It was just so bad. But what I remember also when we're sitting there was that she is just so strong and so gracious. She was so determined. But just so you know, that was not perfect. As Lynn Bumgarner always says, because nobody's perfect. And this next story would not even be funny if it were not for the fact that it was about our seemingly always composed Pat. And Jay, I hope you don't mind that I'm telling this. You might be a little nervous right now. In retrospect, we now suspect that Pat's disease was betraying her mind and her body quite a while ago. But just a few years ago, several of us had traveled to Michigan to Bo and Susie Reddick's Sundance wedding. And the following morning, we were all invited over to the Pools Cottage, which was also in Michigan, a half hour away, for brunch. Well, Pat and Jay don't show up. They don't show up. Pretty soon, they arrive. Both of them quite flustered, quite stressed. Well, it seems they've been lost. And for those of you that are married, you know being lost with your spouse in the car causes a few stressful moments. So Pat comes in, the seemingly always composed, but now quite agitated Pat comes in with her signature sigh. She relates her version. She said, "We were not even out of the parking lot yet, and we were lost." And Jay didn't have the right directions. And then there was this old couple in the parking lot walking so slowly, they wouldn't get out of our way. And the GPS lady was getting it all wrong. She said, "So I yelled at him." I'm like, "You yelled at Jay?" "No, I yelled at the old couple." She said, "Yeah, and then I did this." Pat, our Pat. Really, Jay, she said she did that to the old couple out the window. You were mad. It was a very rare, not so full of grace moment. And we're still laughing about it. So out of character. But Olivia, Jackson, and Natalie, that is not the part about your grandma. I know you remember most. What I hope you do remember is that although she gave you many gifts, I think the most valuable and the most lasting were those of her grace and her strength. I honestly believe those were Pat's parting gifts for all of us, but especially for you grandchildren, whom she adored. And they are your gifts to keep. No one can take them away. What I hope is that when life gets messy, and it will get messy, you will somehow be able to reach deep within and draw on those gifts. Because I know I will. And that will get you through, just like I got Pat through so many obstacles. One last thing that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, and that's Jay and Corey and Wayne, your adorable family, Caroline. We just want you to know that we appreciate so much. Actually, we're in awe of how you so lovingly kept the vigil these last few heartbreaking weeks with Pat. But not only that, somehow you were able to open up and share with some of us that journey, that letting go. And that's not easy to do. That is not easy to do. It is a tribute to you that our Pat left this world surrounded by those she treasured most, at pain, out of pain at last, and knowing she was deeply loved. What more could any of us ask? Thank you.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is BJ, and I'm one of the bookies of the book club. 46 years with Pat. And I was honorably asked by Jay to read a letter that he had received from our other bookie, Marilyn, who could not be here today. And this letter really is a perfect example of how each one of us in that book club feel about Pat. Dear Jay, immediately after reading Corey's beautiful eulogy that appeared in Pat's obituary, I thought of a line from the song about Maria in The Sound of Music. How do you hold a moonbeam in your hand? Corey did lovingly capture the moonbeam that was her mother, your wife, and our dear friend. Pat's light was not that of the blazing sun, but rather the cool, shimmering glow of moonlight. She was a very gracious hostess and a wonderful cook. Her book club culinary offerings usually came from Bon Appetit magazine and were far more involved than the rest of us attempted. Her garden could have been featured in a magazine. In many ways, we wanted to be like Pat. Yet while she was the epitome of understated classic elegance, she was also very humble and down to earth. Pat didn't seek the spotlight, but always enjoyed the hilarity and funny stories that constitute a good portion of a bookie gathering. She laughed as hard as anyone at our antics and often said how much she treasured the many decades of friendship that is the hallmark of our group. In turn, we treasured her. Although the book club lasts a lot, we have also been there for each other through many difficult times. Regarding her own trying times, Pat always said everyone has stuff, and remained optimistic even when faced with very discouraging odds. She was courageous and strong, an inspiration to all of us. On a personal note, I especially treasure the time that Pat and I spent together apart from the book club. On a few occasions, the two of us met for breakfast and enjoyed chatting together. Another time, we embarked on a Chicago adventure. After taking the train into the city, we went to the Drake Hotel for high tea. The amazing thing is that we did this, Marilyn and Pat, while Pat was undergoing chemotherapy for her first bout of breast cancer. As someone who has recently experienced chemo, I'm astonished that she was able to take such a venture. What a great time. Finally, Pat was a very positive influence in my life as she was for so many people. I will greatly miss her and never forget her. Yours, Marilyn Poole. And on a personal note, I will add that each one of us in the Bookies Club had a special personal relationship with Pat that we will treasure forever. And we will greatly miss her.
I know everybody mostly, but I'm Caroline. I'm Pat's daughter. I'm so honored to just say a few words about the sweet, kind, beautiful woman I affectionately knew as Mama Duder. And I guess I just have to take a minute to explain the story of the Duders. Years ago, Chad and I, we were sitting in our living room having coffee one morning, and these two mourning doves or lovebirds came out and landed on our balcony, and they clearly had like lovemaking and nest making on their mind. And we watched these birds. I mean, I thought they'd be afraid of us, but these two birds went from flower basket to flower basket that we had just newly planted, and picked up the flowers and tried to find the perfect nest. Clearly, they were very determined, and it was like watching our own little Nat Geo program. It was. I mean, okay, so not so exotic, but equally fascinating. And these birds were not afraid of us at all. I mean, we were out there grilling and having coffee, and the birds, they became our friends. So we decided to name them the Duders, and we shared the balcony all through that spring and summer. And watching these birds, again, they were so fiercely dedicated as partners and parents. When the eggs hatched, they'd sit at the mama duder would sit at the nest and wait for the dad to come back, and it was the same time every day. I'm like, how do the birds know what time of day? I mean, they didn't watch as long as these birds were like, they were just like the best parents and we were so fascinated. We thought that's pretty cool. That's like, if only we could be like the Duders, right? So why am I telling the story about the Duders? They came along at a particularly dark and challenging time for Chad and I. It was right around the time where he was diagnosed with his brain tumor. And watching this set of little lovebirds care for each other and care for their young with such determination, it gave us something to focus on that took away from the chaos in our lives. And the Duders became symbolic of love and hope and the continuation of life. And of course, Chad being Chad, he wove together these epic tales of the Duders. And I remember sitting in the hospital one day with him, and I'm like, let's talk about something. Tell me a story. So he went on and on about Mama and Papa Duder. So without question, the Duders became the perfect name for Jay and Pat. And the Duders just do what Duders do. They live a dedicated life, loving each other, their home, and their family. They're the Duders. Pat was not just my mother-in-law. She and Jay are surrogate parents to me, and I'm so blessed to have them in my life. Pat was sweet and caring from the day I met her, but our bond grew at the time Chad was diagnosed, and both of us were plunged into an uncertainty at the news of his cancer. She shared the intense pain and the anxiety that I was feeling, and there were so many times that I just wanted to fall apart. And I could call her or send her a text, or just when she'd come over to visit, she was always that loving, consistent, calm voice that I needed to tell me to just keep on going and to keep doing the next thing and to stay strong. I mean, I wanted to fall apart so many times, and just seeing her bravery and her ability to set aside her own anxiety and her own worries to be strong for me, I will never forget that. Her endurance, her quiet resolve to keep going and to keep loving. This is one of the greatest qualities about her. And behind that sweet and gentle demeanor was a woman of tremendous strength and resolve. And yes, Mama Duder may have been soft-spoken, but she was oh so tough on the inside. Pat was a mother to me and a friend. And after we lost Chad, she kept checking in on me and encouraged me to heal, encouraged me to keep on living and laughing and enjoying life. And she even encouraged me to open myself up to love again. She wanted nothing more than to see me happy again. Despite all the tremendous loss in Pat's life, her sister and her son, these are tragedies that would make most people bitter to life. She was able to pick up and carry on, appreciate it all. She loved life, as we've all talked about. She loved it. She loved her children, her grandchildren, and her books, and her travels with Jay, and her garden, and her friends and bridge group, and the golf course, and her granddogs, and her life was bright up until the very end. And she always chose to remain grateful. And that was the essence of Pat. despite even the most tragic losses, she encouraged us to look around and make the most of life and just be grateful. She encouraged me to live fully and to enjoy my life and just keep on laughing. And we laughed through all of it. Sometimes when it was even most awkward and even a little inappropriate, we laughed. And that got us through. That's how we were able to get through. The ability to laugh at the worst time and keep that lightheartedness in our lives was a gift that Pat definitely passed on to Corey and Chad. And that's what I love most about this family, and especially Corey and Chad. That laughter is woven into everything, into the everyday. Nothing is spared from a laugh or a giggle, be it silly, twisted, obnoxious, goofy, gut-wrenching, roll on the floor, pee in your pants laughter, or just absolutely stupid. And again, sometimes inappropriate, but you know what? That's the way you get through. And I remember when Pat got some bad news, I came over and brought this damn it doll. And it's like a little voodoo doll for your cancer, this stupid thing with this crossed out eyes and this goofy hair. And she and I are looking at it. She's like, well, what do you do with it? I'm like, it's a damn it doll. You beat the crap out of it. We took this damn it doll and I just watched her, damn it, till she totally broke out in laughter. And that life is messy and ridiculous, and it's just how you approach it that matters. And I will always remember that about her. I guess I can't adequately speak for Chad, but he told me countless stories about his mom over the years, how dedicated of a mother she was, driving him to tennis lessons, and when she'd go to visit him out in Boulder when he was at school. And he would have found the most eloquent way to tell everyone today how incredible a mother she was, and how he trusted and loved her, not only as his mother, but as a best friend in his adult life. One of the last conversations that I had with Pat, she had told me that she wanted to keep on living, but if her fate was to be taken by this cancer, she had hoped to do this epic swoop down from heaven to give us a sign that she was okay. So I'm waiting for the swoop. We should all wait for that swoop. I think the swoop is coming. It might be a butterfly, it might be a dooter, but I'm waiting for the swoop. What I think to my loving sister Corey and to my father Jay, I think if she could speak to you right now, she would thank you for how much your love has carried her through some of these hard times. You made it possible for her to help smooth this landing into the afterlife as it did for Chad. And I would love to think that landing was met by the biggest embrace by Chad and her sister Grace, and then a personal performance by John Denver. Just to conclude, Mama Duke, I will miss you dearly. I will miss your light, your love, your laughter, your big long hugs, and your backyard flowers, and your butterflies, and your cozy days inside listening to the rain, and John Denver country roads, and sneaking extra scoops of butter pecan ice cream and cookies. Mama Duke, you are the heart of this family. You are the sweetness of the sweets. But while we feel this tremendous loss, we also feel your quiet resolve, telling us that you are okay. And we will follow your lead, and we will love each other and cherish every moment we have on this beautiful planet, and keep on doing the next fun thing. And yes, go grab that another cookie. Who has more fun than us? Go grab it.
Well, thank you, for all of the things that have been shared so far today. And those were a lot of the things I was going to say too. But there's more to share, and I want to add a few things, and then Wayne is going to wrap us up today, and we'll share a meal together. But when I think about my mom, I just want to look at you for a minute. Mom was a planner. She would have had this table set 4 days ago. These tables would have been set. The tablecloths would have been ironed. She would have hated to have to write a speech, but if she did, it would have been done a long time ago. And Mom's plans, I didn't realize how important those plans were. I'm not really a planner, and sometimes that became a little bit of a conflict. The bookies probably heard about that. That I could cause my mom some stress by my failure to plan. But that brings the word grace to mind. And we've already heard a lot about grace. My mom's graceful. She walked gracefully. Her home was graceful. But you know what else was graceful about my mom? Was the way that she just kept loving. Even when life was disappointing, but even when people could be disappointing. And that's the most beautiful thing about a family. And we have the best family. I love our family. But you know what? Daughters and sons and husbands and real life. In real life, it's about the good and the bad, the intense moments, the happy moments. And over all of that, over 50 years, there was grace. And so today, even though I want everything to be perfect, the word that keeps going through my mind is grace. That love covers a multitude of wrongs. And we are so rich because in the end, we don't focus on the hard stuff, the bad stuff, the wrong stuff. We choose, because Mom led us in that choosing, to focus on whatsoever things are true and lovely and excellent and praiseworthy, and if there would be anything good about it, that was what she was going to choose to remember. And so this past summer, and really throughout her life, this summer we would sit out on that patio, and as her memory was just getting harder and harder for her to remember. And we always hear about people, sometimes illness sometimes it just brings out the worst in somebody, even something that would be uncharacteristic. But right through to the very end, my mom chose gratitude and joy. And she would sit on that porch and look at her beautiful garden and sit there with my dad, and she would say, "I'm so glad I married you. You were the best decision of my life." And she meant it. "I'm so glad we bought this house. I'm so glad that we still have Glen Oak. I'm so glad that I love my garden. I love our birdhouse. This is the best bread pudding," whatever it was. She just went over and over in her mind, rehearsing the good and rehearsing what she was thankful for and what she enjoyed, and she loved her life. And what an example that is for all of us. We've heard that over and over today, and that's the kind of woman that she chose to be, and that's the kind of woman I want to choose to be and choose to be. I think there are a few other things that I can say that haven't been said. I think my mom, there are a few things that maybe you didn't know about her. And I do want to just touch on, she was born in Oak Park, and she was the firstborn child of Marge and Ray Olson. She's the older sister to Alan and to Gloria, who we've heard about. Mom saw herself as a protector. Does that surprise you? She, especially for Gloria, one of the stories that she told me about her little sister was, it was her job, my mom's job, to watch Gloria get off the bus. And one day she went to pick up Gloria, after school, and Gloria didn't get off the bus. And she was terrified something had happened to Gloria. And it turned out that her mom had gone to school and picked Gloria up and taken her to a doctor's appointment and didn't tell mom. She was terrified, but it was because she had that heart to protect. And I already said that she was a planner, and she had dreams. She had big dreams, and she turned those dreams into plans because she was so organized. Mom earned the Curved Bar Award, which was the highest level of achievement in Girl Scouts and is now referred to the Gold Award. Maybe you didn't know that. In school, she participated in synchronized swimming and student council, and she was always the secretary of everything, which probably doesn't surprise you either, because that just fit her organized mind. She had been a cheerleader as a sophomore, was disappointed when they were one uniform short for making the varsity squad, but she was rewarded and had a great personal victory when she was named the homecoming queen of Oak Park River Forest High School. By the time Mom graduated high school, she had traveled to every state in the lower 48 with her on road trips with her family. She had that desire to travel, and I think that's where that came from. But Hawaii and Alaska were still on her bucket list, and she did get to both those states with Dad in the years to come. After high school, Mom attended the University of Illinois as a home ec major and lived with her sorority sisters at the Pi Phi house. And Mom had other dreams, though, however, and decided school wasn't part of them. And after her sophomore year, she left Champaign and was hired by United Airlines as a stewardess based in Chicago. When visiting her sorority sisters in the fall of 1964, she met a handsome young grad student in his first 2 weeks of law school, and he was strong and independent, and he shared her core values and became her best friend. Mom fell in love and married my dad, and that was one of the best decisions of her life. My mom would wake me up in the morning and say, "Good morning, it's time to rise and shine and sparkle." Yep, she woke me up that way every morning, and my mom knew she was cheery and she knew the value of a smile. Smiles send messages to our brains and tell us we're happy. When we smile at others, they usually can't help but smile at us too. A smile is a wonderful gift, and it's as wonderful a gift to give as it is to receive. As Chad and I went off to school each day, Mom reminded us, be good, be smart, and be nice to everybody. And then for humor, she'd throw in, and don't take any wood nickels. The world would be an awesome place if we could live by her motto and keep a sense of humor while we were doing it. We all talk about how sweet and kind my mom was, and she was, but she was also super funny, as we referred to, and I loved her dry sense of humor, even with a little inappropriate sometimes, but super funny, and mostly it's just so funny. She could be silly and threw in lots of sound effects and physical humor, and that cracked us up. So, last lesson, we've heard about the other things, repeating the good, the wonder. There's one last thing that I want to share. She always wanted the best for us. She always wanted the best for you. She wanted the best for people. And she saved sacrificially. And sometimes I didn't understand that thing about my mom. But because she was a planner, she had dreams for us, for Chad and I, for Dad. She wanted to help Dad be the best that he could be. She wanted us kids to be the best that we could be. Not for her, but for us. I didn't get that when I was little. But it was for us. And when she wasn't buying new clothes for herself, or she was passing by on something, it was so that there would be something left for us. And I just wanted to say thanks, Mom.
That's all hard to follow. I'll take you back to the first time that I met Pat. So I met this girl, Corey, this beautiful woman, godly woman. Now I'm going to ask her out, right? And so I'm going to their house to pick up Corey. And of course, I'm terrified. I pull in the driveway, walk up to the house, and the door opens. And the person that opens the door it's Pat. And I'm like looking at a magazine cover. I was like, wow. This bodes well for the future. She had the pearls on her hair. She looked perfect. You know the last picture they had on the slide? She looked better than that. That's possible. And so it was just, and she was cheery. She was inviting. She was disarming and hospitable and accepting. And that's the way Pat always was. I always felt so loved and accepted by her. And over the next 30 years, I had the wonderful place at the Tressler dinner table right next to Pat. I'm really jealous. And we would have our little sidebar conversations. And when she finally sat down after serving everybody, I was witness to Pat's charm and her wit and her self-effacing humor and the stories. And one of my favorite things about Pat was her dissatisfied face. And the bookies have to know this, right? I don't know if I can do it right, but that little face she did, it's so cute and adorable. And like I said, she was a great hostess. And imagine this, in 30 years, I kid you not, in 30 plus years of dinner with the Tresslers, I never once had a bad dinner. And in fact, the opposite of that, it was like being at the Ritz with a great hostess. I just couldn't believe every single time we sat down for Father's Day or Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or whatever the occasion was, it was just wonderful food. And that was one of the blessings of being part of the Tressler family. I believe I heard it was either Jay or someone else. And I didn't know this. She said, I believe that Pat's aspiration was to model herself after the first ladies of the President of the United States. But when I heard that, I'm like, that makes total sense. That's who she was, a first-class lady to represent, right? Just totally represented. In an age where decorum seems to be slipping away, Pat exuded grace and class and deference, right? Just always putting others first and thinking about others. So that was my experience. I mean, you heard so many things. Now Pat is gone from this earth, right? But where is she now? Well, we were blessed, so blessed by a story that Kay Phil can share years ago. So years ago, this wonderful, faithful servant of God, Kay Phil, had been reaching out to Pat and shared Christ with her. And during the course of that dialogue, through some period of time, Pat kept saying, I just have not decided yet about Christ. I'm on the fence. And in a very loving way, Kay finally said to Pat, you have to decide. To not decide is to decide. Right? You have to get off the fence. And so not long after that, one day, Pat calls Kay up and said, Kay, I'm off the fence. She had decided to choose Christ, to believe. That was her faith. Now, we've talked about life being hard and life is messy and there's painful things. And I think in the years since, Pat had some struggles with her faith, like we all do from time to time, right? If anyone tells you they've never doubted, they've never struggled with their faith, they probably haven't looked too deeply into it, right? So that's understandable. The thing about it, though, is that when you accept Christ, he makes some notable promises from Scripture. So I turn to that. In the book of John 10:28 through 29, he says, I give them life, and they will never perish, and no one will snatch them out of my hand. When you make that decision, he says, no one will snatch you out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all, and no one is able to snatch them out of my Father's hand. Again, 2 Peter 3:9. The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient toward you, not wishing that any should perish, but that each should reach repentance. Again, Philippians 1:6. And I am sure of this, that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion at the day of Jesus Christ. And lastly, the verses, 1 John 5:13. I write these things to you who believe in the name of the Son of God, that you may know that you have eternal life. So he makes these promises. These promises are irrevocable. And so although Pat may have struggled because, like you said, she said, we all have stuff. And it's true. And that stuff sometimes gets in our head, gets in our heart, gets in our way, and we struggle. But in the last few years, as Corey and our kids look to encourage Pat in the faith, she said something very particular. More than once, she said, don't give up on me. Don't give up on me. And I thought that was such a sweet and earnest entreaty. And I thought about a verse in Matthew 10:40. And she's saying this to Corey and to the kids. That verse says, he who receives you receives me. And whoever receives me receives him who sent me. So by proxy, she was reaching out to Jesus Christ. Don't give up on me. And as I thought about this recently, about that request, it reminded me of another person mentioned in Scripture. And although you couldn't find a person in Scripture more different than Pat, there was something very similar about their request. You see, the thief on the cross had been hanging there for hours with Jesus. And even though Jesus was nailed to the cross like him, something deeply moved him about Jesus Christ, to the point of faith. And he turned to Jesus and said to him, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus responded to him, and perhaps in much the same way he would respond to Pat, who said, don't give up on me. Jesus' response was, truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Luke 23:43. Today our hope is based upon the promises of God, God's character, God's person. And someday soon, because life is short, we'll be rejoined to our dear, patient Ruth, Olson, and Tressler in heaven, along with all those who believe. Amen? Amen. Let's pray. Father, what a celebration of life. What a celebration of character, of love, of perseverance, of positivity, of never quit, never give up. Pat will be greatly missed. But our hope is in heaven because there's an eternity to spend with Pat. So we're so grateful for Kay Filkin and for that witness, for that sharing of testimony, and for your promises, Lord, because you are faithful. Knowing you is like nothing else. Knowing you is everything. It's precious in the most deep way. And we thank you that she has had that touch point with you, God, and that promise. And we look to be with her someday. And Lord, now we thank you for the celebration and for this time of fellowship together. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
So, but we do, we have food in there, and I think that we should, probably go table by table with masks on to have everyone feel comfortable. So why don't we start? How about that? We'll just go in clockwise. Here you go. Doug's in charge.
I'm so weird, like, very.
Good job.
Everybody,